Hello everybody, how are you doing today?
Greetings, lovely YouTubers and watchers of the YouTube.
I am Scandal.
And I am Lies.
And welcome back to Zen Koi, but this time, again, this is actually just a set piece. We are really mostly here for one very strong reason. What is that?
And that very strong reason is to bitch. A lot of bitching about the movie Alita, Battle Angel. So, this time, Scandal will be holding the pad.
Yep, I've
and
got
is
this.
going to lead us off by the person who knows less about canon material, and so can give a more pure experience of just watching the movie.
So
Start with your exit experience, shall we?
Alright, y'all, I have a thing that I want to complain about that I believe is very important in terms of a movie-going experience.
So important.
I should never freaking be walking out of a movie and going, I'm bored and I'm falling asleep. And I'm tired. Like, yes. I'm frustrated, and I'm also tired and I don't care.
So I had this experience of going, okay, there's the end of the movie, and looking over, and my friend is zoning out in this anger and lethargia of I'm bored and disconnected,
and also irritated. Mm-hmm. So again, for those of you who don't know, I have, historically speaking, only really maybe read
two all the way above.
Maybe of the books of Battle Angel Alita when I was a kid. And we're talking about over 20 years ago. Years ago kind of thing. And now there's this thing that I just happened to run across and I don't freaking understand why.
So we can start with some basics things of, for me, the pacing was confusing.
God, that pacing was really confusing. I'm like, it's my thing is I don't even know where to start because there were so many things. Like, I literally just looked at Lies and I went, so the intro to this is quite literally going to be, so you know that character Deshugan? Imagine that is indicative of the entire problem. So with the entire series.
It was funny because we actually had an experience of we listened to a couple of non-spoiler reviews beforehand, you know?
This one?
I mean, it depends on whether you have more of those. Do you have more eggs that can make those two options?
Let's find out.
Anyway, and then somebody said, yeah, Jashugan's not in there, right? And I went, oh, okay. They wanted to focus on Motorball, but without telling the story of essentially Alita's crippling depression due to loss, then how can they tell the story?
In relation to, spoilers, the fact that Hugo actually freaking dies in the manga in the book 2? He dies?
His entire story is contained in book 2. He doesn't exist in book 1. He doesn't exist in book 3.
Yep.
His whole story is in book 2.
Yep.
And in book 3, Motorball exists. Anyway, so they kind of did this weird thing where they smashed several stories together, but basically content from the first 4 books together. And then also grabbed some from books 9 and 10, which was super weird.
Mm.
But I understand, again, this kind of goes with the OVA, like what basically what happened in the OVA. So I'm not sure. You could always pitch that one and go for rarer ones, which that one would be easier to get again later.
I mean, I can also just hatch it and then it's not an egg anymore.
If you
right? Does it force you to move on to another one, or do you still have the fish? Sorry, this is me not recalling.
I played number 2. See what happens when you hatch it. It turns into a fish, but it takes up the slot. As far as I know, it just replaces the egg slot with the fish. I mean, you won't lose your fish. Go ahead and hatch it. It'll just hatch it in the tank where you are now. So it's hatching.
Okay.
Okay. And then you're going to see the fish. But so far as I know, it doesn't leave your egg slot. It just turns into a fish.
Okay.
Oh, you got a black one. You got dusk. Anyway, so now go look at your eggs again, and you can see this. Pardon us. Well,
we have fun. Sorry,
doesn't know how to play this game, but they're learning. It's fine.
Egg goose. Nope, empty.
Oh, because you have to fill. You can fill your koi slots too. How many koi slots do you have?
I have 3.
But
you have to add 3. You could add another one.
Okay. So for now, that's good. That you can have one more egg. All right, we're good. Good.
Yep, okay.
Excellent. All right, now we move forth. Anyway, so they had said Jashugan wasn't in there, and then they showed the Motorball, and I'm like, hang on, that's Jashugan's armor. That's him. And then they show him, and I'm like, okay, that's not him once his helmet's off. But, they change people's visual design. This happens. Ito doesn't look exactly like he does in the manga. Obviously.
And also, by the way, his name is Dyson.
That's fine. They changed it to Dyson.
I also said lies too. I went, oh look, they're trying to avoid a Ghost in the Shell problem, where everybody went, you guys are fucking getting rid of all the Asians.
Right. And the thing is it was never distinctive exactly what races everyone was in the scrapyard.
No, not at all.
What ethnicity. It wasn't really clear.
It's not like you can't have someone who has
they're-
basically a name that isn't considered to be European in origin. That's not what's up for debate here. I just was going, they
That's
were
probably what
paranoid,
they
basically going, oh my god, if we keep this guy's name as Daisuke Ito, Daisuke Ito, we're screwed. They're gonna kill us because the fandom basically exploded about
the
Ghost in the Shell
issue.
Because they went, you had all of these heavily Japanese characters as far as anyone really could tell or knew or basically read it because it was done in Japan.
So, anyway, about this movie.
No, I'm just in the middle of this.
The thing, if you kind of boiled it down to the problem with Jashugan, where when he took off his helmet, he wasn't the same character, but also when he spoke, he wasn't the same character. Now, Jashugan was the king of the motorball arena. He was top of the line. He wasn't in the running to be, so this has got to be in a different timeline, since they introduced motorball way earlier in Alita's story.
And also, apparently, Ito is connected to it and knows things about it and whatever. Sorry, I'm like, the thing is this movie is so freaking confusing. So for me, again, I maybe only read like one or, like I definitely read one.
2.
I have read at least 2. Like, maybe 3. But I barely freaking remember them. Been years. And also going, this is incredibly freaking confusing. Like, I couldn't tell half the time because they kept, like, joshing around on the pacing. The emotional balance was really off. It was like, what is the point of this? We're going to have this really weird teen, young adult, book romance in here kind of thing, which is fine. It's not that you can't have that, but it was also super disorienting because
I was also very disconnected from Hugo's death because so much was going on at that point, and then the scene was so abruptly short and also interrupted by what they're trying to introduce as your overarching antagonist that you've just gotten a brush of, sort of awareness
Oh,
of.
and they also said, yeah, Nova's not going to be in this. Holy cow. Okay, so again, rampant spoilers
Somebody's
everywhere
review.
because, guys, plenty of people are going, like, this character's not in there. But no, like, it was even in an interview with the people there. They were like, yeah, we're going to have this person, but I don't really know who he is. And it's like, you're talking about Nova. No, they're not talking about Nova.
There was an official interview where they're like, well, we thought about using Dusty Nova, but then, we didn't. Or there's this other character, but he's nameless. I'm like, they literally say Nova. And they literally show him on screen. And then he does something super strange, which he only did, again, in book 9 or 10. He takes off his glasses.
Yeah, and again, guys, so 9 or 10 out of literally 10 books.
Yeah.
That were at least released in English.
And the thing is what I was concerned about when I did so we had a previous grinding cast about this. If you're looking for it and you're hearing this one but you haven't heard the other one, it's set to a Monster Maker program. So that's the visual.
It's the Monster Girl Maker or whatever the heck.
But I talked about what I was afraid that this movie wouldn't have that I loved about the books, right? And one of my fears was that this movie wouldn't have the emotional connectivity between people that it had in the books when profound things happened, okay? And so the thing is when you finally get close to Dusty Nova, because he is this distant, unreachable sort of figure for a long time.
And he does actually, though, get introduced in the first book with a character that they took out and they turned him into Gweishtar, whatever the fuck his name is. I'm like, I couldn't get Gweishander.
I have no idea what it was. Gishir?
I don't know. Gweishan. Goo he's Goo Goo Gaga from Iris.
He's G something.
He's G something.
He's the G man.
He's the G man. They put in a lot more German stuff this time around, which I was kind of entertained by. Because Panzerkunst, we're gonna make this huge deal out of it. This ancient thing that nobody knows how to do. It's been 300 years since anybody's ever seen this thing. How the hell do you know about this then, Dyson? You sound insane.
It's fine. It's because he's from Teferis. I'm also like, I don't know why the Teferian mark was turned into a crystal, and I don't know why.
It was a tattoo!
It was a tattoo. You just
Oh
get a
my
little
god,
tattoo
it was
on
a
your forehead.
fucking tattoo! And even I forgot. I was like, oh yeah, I had to sit there and think about it for a bit, and I was like, I wondered why the thing seemed really weird to have, why is all that, like, we need to be able to have some way to remove this so we can keep this as a reveal. It's like you wouldn't actually have had that problem if you didn't have, and what's her name?
Oh,
Siren?
Chirin?
Shirin? Kibi? Halalaloo?
Churro.
Chihiro?
Churro.
Churro? I don't
Would you
even
like
know.
some churros?
Right.
So Chirin.
Chirin.
Anyway, if you didn't add in this character, so again, me not having seen the OVA, where they did a lot of different things and made different characters, sort of hurts my experience because what they were doing with the movie is apparently largely remaking the OVA, but the OVA wasn't like the manga anyways. So I'm like, why would you make a giant big screen production over essentially an OVA, which was a watered down version of the original, and sort of make a watered down version of that? To me, it seemed like what they wanted to do was basically have a bunch of visual badassery on screen. That's what it seemed
They
like
were
that was
very
what they wanted to do.
preoccupied. Well, I mean, when they talked about it in interviews and we read a lot of this, is they were going, "We're really fucking interested in the motor ball," and you're like, "Hang
Okay.
on, the motor ball thing? You know, after Hugo dies, where Alita goes into this massive self-destructive cycle of I just want to die because everything I care about is gone,
Or just hurts.
or just hurts, basically, and I don't like this life." Like, what?
Yeah. Anyway, I felt the romance between them was a lot more forced in the movie than it was in the manga, between Hugo and Alita. I also felt like
Also,
Ito's...
let's get on to the fact that I feel like also they aged him up because they had to bring out the point of you're 300 fucking years old.
Yeah.
When he was like 14 or 15 years old in the original.
Yeah, he was I'm
He was
pretty
kind
sure
of a
he was
kid.
like 14. He was a kid. The fact that the reason he was full flesh was because he was freaking so young and he hadn't had much happen to him yet. The weird sort of self like redemption arc they wanted to do for him that didn't work out at all. Okay, so in the manga, Hugo is a black market basically smuggler or
Thief.
not like thief of
Body harvester.
of body parts. What he will do is he will mug people, and instead of taking their wallets, he'll take their spines. Okay?
Because spines were.
The spines were one of the most expensive and hardest things to reproduce in the human body. It's so much easier to buy a spine than build one. Whether it's an organic spine that you put, you put augmentation into, or whether it's actually just a completely, manufactured spine. They were very hard to make and very expensive, right?
Right.
So, what was your fish was just floating in lightly.
It was expanding the pond. Hang on.
Okay.
You don't
Anyway,
believe in
so
my
what he
pond
was
expansion.
he had been successful in the way that some people who mug people don't get caught for a while, or some thieves don't get caught for a while. But eventually he got caught in pretty extreme circumstances, and a bounty got put on his head, right? And so he was never repentant of this activity in the book. He was just adamant, I never killed anyone. I'm not a murderer. I'm a thief, right?
Right. Very different experience.
Thief's code. I'm a thief, not a murderer. Excuse you, okay? And the thing is in the movie, they made him really go, like, I was trying to get out of this. Like, I wanted to leave it because I wanted to be good, essentially, for you with Alita, sort of thing. Which is sort of weird because he wasn't that person. And they kind of basically went, I have remorse for my crimes and don't want to do them anymore, so that makes me a good person.
That makes me fine.
Except for the thing
he wasn't
like that in the book. In the same way that Alita was a lot cockier in the book, in a lot of ways. She really did have this sort of like playful cockiness that was kind of fun, but was also kind of offensive sometimes. Of just going,
she was an arrogant
I'm better than everyone. She really was.
She really kind of was.
I was really irritated about the Kansas piece.
And also the Hound guy. I saw you were pretty irritated with him.
So there is a piece in the manga where Alita comes in as a hunter warrior, which is a bounty hunter, to the bar where they meet up, which is Kansas, and requests everyone to help her defeat a big bad who's murdering people in the city. And everyone's going, he's a bigger big bad than we are. We're not really equipped to fight him. Most of them going, you know what? We just fight people with similar levels of augmentation or less than we have, kind of thing. We're not going to go after someone that seems like a solid loss because we're all kind of working for it. This is our job. We have to continue making money and continue surviving, right? And so, and also, like, she was an established hunter warrior at this point,
And
and
she was also an established shitlord.
yeah, that too.
She really
and she
was.
killed a lot of people. And she comes into Bar, Kansas with people she knows in reference to things she knows. And she's like, hey, you people should fight back. And they're all kind of like, why? There's nothing in it for us, right?
Right, because this is what we're here for. So, okay, so you should probably establish that bounty hunters really, honestly, weren't this random bullshitty thing that they kind of seemed to be in the movie. Like, going, no, we're totally serious. I'm like, no, they were a super huge business. The reason why Japan gets so fucking irritated in the manga was literally because Alita was an arrogant shitface. She really was. And basically, in a lot of ways, was kind of an insult to them as a professional business. They were professionals. This is what they did. Okay, this is their
It's
job.
contract work.
And
as
it
a
also
job.
wasn't like they could just run around and do it willy-nilly. Those huge sentinels or whatever the fuck they were, they actually had tiny little versions of them that were horrifying. They were basically little babies that were floating like head bodies or whatever the fuck. I barely remember this, but I remember them kind of thinking about going, oh yeah, they were these little horror monsters that would sit there and Google and giggle at you and whatever else. And they were terrifying and they would watch everything. You didn't have Destinova waltzing around in people's heads, using a thing that he never fucking used, as far as I understand.
Nope.
Again, I didn't read as far as this was. Like,
So when Destinova is introduced in the first
so
manga,
many things that are problems.
he's not really introduced.
No.
The thing
you
is,
see him through Makaku's flashback.
Yep, you see him very briefly without a name through Makaku's flashback when he's dying.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is it becomes important later. So honestly, it's just good storytelling on the author's part to go, hey, here's this thing that may not really be important, and then it becomes very, very important later on.
Uh-huh.
You don't have a lot of connection to it. It's part of somebody else's memory, and then it becomes one of the cruxes of the story, right?
Right.
You can do your thing.
What thing?
This thing.
This thing?
Yeah. Whenever it says Zen Koi, it means you filled your slots.
Yay!
And you can create
fine.
the gems.
I was having fun leveling. I don't know about you.
Yeah, but you
I
should
can't
be
play
expanding the pond to level faster.
No. Not at all.
Anyway, so
Where am I going?
you stopped it. So choose it.
Okay.
So at any rate, you get this experience in the manga where you introduce very lightly what's going to ultimately be your ultimate bad guy through somebody else's flashback, and you don't know who he is, and you learn over time through several books and a lot of heartache, honestly. And in this one, like, the big bad isn't really the big bad. They've kind of mashed together several stories where they're combining Motorball and the arena, both sanctioned sports that were, that are sort of governed in rules by, or like funded by Teferis, which in here is called Zalem, which in the anime is called Zion. So
yeah.
they decided to change names all over the place, as well as the whole thing is the scrapyard, and in the movie it's obviously they change it to Iron City for some reason, and then scrapyard is just a piece of it. I don't know why. At any rate, what was really weird about Destinova is he's never in the city in the sky during the first 9 manga. And then he's there in the last one, in number 10. Because he goes back to it. Now, did he come from it? Yes. Is he up there playing some sort of weird puppet master, I rule everything and I'm in charge of stuff? No. He was never into really ruling people or being in charge of things or being this, governor of other people's actions. He's actually really about, let me just see what you would do and let you go. Oh, you have limitations that don't let you do what you would actually do? Let me remove your limitations and then see what you would do.
And then we'll do it.
Like, if you could actually do exactly what you wanted to do, what would that look like?
Right.
That's more the kind of shitlord that Destinova is, because he's trying to understand, one, what he calls karma, but really is just an experience of sort of the human spirit. Given that karma is actually, a strongly, what would you say, religious belief? Or spiritual belief, perhaps.
It's a spiritual belief.
Karma isn't just this idea. If you go to, it's Buddhism, right?
I believe so. It's at least in that area. They shared some things.
It's
could
at
be
least Indian, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's this idea of it's the collection of basically the value or the experiences of all of your different lives stacked together. So it is connected to reincarnation.
Yeah.
And he's not studying
But it's also
reincarnation.
history. That's the thing is, so karma is not something that just instantaneously pops up for you. Karma is actually basically built up off of your past lives. Who were you as a person then and there? So it's not something that is just an instantaneous, oh, you're a shit person today, you're immediately going to get your butt owned today. You know? It's no. Or like in the last week or whatever the hell you want to play. Oh, in the last year. It's the thing for Santa Claus.
Here we go. In Hinduism and Buddhism, the sum of a person's actions in this and previous states of existence viewed as deciding their fate in future existences.
Yep.
Informal is the destiny or fate, following as an effect from cause. So your formal actually has this very structured, this is about past lives and your current life stacking together. And so I feel like karma is kind of a mistranslation when they say that that's what Dusty's studying. But the thing is they have him as some sort of weird overlord who's ensconced up into fairies, who piggybacks on other people's consciousness via like chips in their head, and then, you know, and can control them for, you know,
which you told me for sure that like Dusty originally had nothing to do with the brain chips. He didn't like them, right?
So the brain chips aren't a brain chip. So there is no control chip in someone's head. There's no viewing chip in someone's head. What a biochip is literally removing the human brain. There is no brain anymore, and replacing it
basically with a solid state drive,
with essentially a copy of it, an organic biological copy that is a microchip. And you can encase that microchip into a solid state support if you want to make it so you can't get concussions and brain damage and things like that.
Right.
But
the thing that basically was starting to screw over Jashugan because he had a normal brain still.
He did. And so Dusty was doing research basically to understand what makes us human. If you don't have a brain, are you human? If you don't have a body, are you human? That kind of thing.
God! Okay, I'm still really irritated that suddenly she fucking didn't have her goddamn berserker body where they're gonna pull this whole huge fit about how magical and amazing and sparkly she is for being a part of the And they all had to be really goddamn obnoxious saying, and I'm like, well, yeah, it sounds stupid. And you're like, honestly, if you're involved in that system, it doesn't sound dumb. I hate to say it, there are plenty of people who say some of the dumbest sounding acronyms, if you've never heard them before, with completely straight faces.
And it was really funny because she's like, trying to go, like, there was a little bit of people trying to pronounce it. I was irritated with the Berserker body arc because, one, Ito already owned the Berserker body. He found it quiet and breathing and still doing fine. In crashed old technology in the same way that he was scavenging when he found her. So Ito has 3 basically hobbies / passions. 1,
he's a doctor.
He is a doctor, and he really wants to help people. Like, genuinely, he wants to help people. And 2, he is basically like a scrapper. Like, he collects stuff. He's essentially, collects like broken pieces and broken bits of things and rebuilds them and refurbishes them. He's a scavenger. He is totally a scavenger as like a serious like business hobby, in the same way some people do metal detecting, right? Like, he is absolutely on top of, I'm going to go all over the place and everywhere and try and find like old technology or broken technology or anything that could be salvaged for anything, whether it's an eyeball, whether it's a joint, whether it's an entire person like Alita. And I'm going to collect these things. And the thing is he'd found the Berserker body and never had any use for it. So one of the weird things where they actually sort of made up the Chosen One arc for the trailers, which was interesting.
Did.
I was bitching in my last one going, oh my god, they gave her a Chosen One arc. But they made her a Chosen One in the trailer and not in the movie. In the movie, there isn't a Chosen One arc. So I was like,
there kind of is, though.
Not in those words.
Not exactly. But the thing is, they tried to be way more subtle about it in the movie.
Yes.
Sort of, considering how unsubtle this freaking movie was.
A lot of their exposition was straight out, you're special. You're special because of this. This is the thing that makes you special.
Right.
And, like, there was no power issues in the scrapyard as far as we could tell. Like, there weren't power outages, there weren't issues with power sources.
And didn't they have that problem in the manga, was that right?
No, but okay. They didn't, because this thing wasn't matter. But they made a big deal about her heart being this reactive core that could power the entire city.
Right? Something that's never
there were no power issues in the city, so powering the city wasn't really a question.
It wasn't really relevant or like...
And then he's like, you could power this city for years with just your heart, this super reactor.
Right.
And I'm going,
It's like, and why should I care about that?
okay, your heart is lost technology. This berserker body is lost technology.
Everything about you is lost technology.
Except for
Except
your
your
brain.
Panzerkunst is also lost technology, except for the fact that it wasn't. Because otherwise, I feel like Dyson really would not have fucking recognized it. If it's 300 goddamn years old,
Nobody else would have really recognized it necessarily
either. But that's the thing, though, too. A lot of people actually in the manga recognized what the hell it was. It was just basically, Panzerkunst was literally just a very powerful martial art that most people could not do because they did not have a body that could fucking withstand it, or basically didn't also have the instruction to learn how to do it.
So
she was just unique in the fact that she just knew it by default.
as well as, it's like there was an experience of, Panzerkunst was specifically a martial art for cyborgs. Human bodies cannot learn it. Period. It's designed around cyborg physics and around the kind of augmented strength and agility and, sort of torque and, momentum you can give yourself as a cyborg depending on how you're built. So you had to have a certain specification or better cyborg body in the same way that you need to have a certain specification computer to run certain games.
Right.
Like that's kind of it. Like, people wanted this fighting technique, and eventually it became a piece of the plot, but it wasn't like the most unique thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But they made her heart to be the most unique thing in the world. And one of the things that really bothered me that my friend here doesn't have connection to is, so Joshugen was in the arena, and Alita challenges him at one point for her life. She's so self-destructive that she challenges him to an arm wrestling match, and she puts her freaking life on line. She pulls her heart out of her chest.
The thing that she
and
does
lays
to
it
Hugo.
on the table.
Yeah, you
And
showed
in the
me
movie,
this.
what they did was they had her offer her heart to Hugo, pulling it out of her chest and offering it to him to sell it, going, if you need money to get to the fairies, you could sell this and I could get a cheaper, simpler heart.
Right. Because I don't need it. It wouldn't matter.
Because I don't need it as bad as you need to have your dream. She was really weirdly teen protagonist girl.
That's why it was like this weird young adult novel.
I will sacrifice absolutely anything for you, Hugo. And the thing was, is she wasn't really making sacrifices for Hugo in the manga. She wanted him, and she wanted to do things for him, and she wanted to add to him, but she wasn't really making sacrifices for him in that way. She wasn't offering to tear apart her body or to change her living circumstances or anything. She just went, I'll go kill people and make money, and then I can go with you.
Right? She's like, because this is the way I could do this.
Uh-huh. And so they take some, again, of these really emotional, profound things and try and shove them into other places. It didn't make sense for her to offer him her heart in the canon of the movie by itself, because she needed the berserker body, and the berserker body couldn't be powered by anything but that heart.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, to be myself,
speaking of bullshit,
to be a warrior, I need to be a fighter, because that's who and what I am. And Ito finally concedes to it and gives her this berserker body that she goes and finds for herself for some reason. And then she offers Hugo her heart, the only thing that would power this body, even though she spent the whole first half of the movie trying to find herself and who she was as a warrior, and can do it now that she has this body. So she's not just offering him her heart, she's offering him to not be a fighter or warrior anymore at all, the thing she's fought to become the entire movie, by giving up this heart.
Pretty much.
Which doesn't make any sense for her to be herself at all.
So which basically completely destroys her entire plot. Going, no, she's willing to sacrifice this. And this is him going, oh, well, he's super noble for basically doing this thing. And I'm like, she just sounds stupid.
In her entire established movie canon, and like I said, this is just in the movie, all
what
she
about
wants
the movie
to do,
canon that he doesn't know how to deal with the berserker body at all and has no idea about the technology but can take off her feet without a second thought?
Yeah, that's a good one. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Oh my god.
So
anyway, keep going.
This experience of going, in the whole first half of the movie, she's trying to figure out who she is, trying to remember things. She finds that she remembers more when she's in life or death situations. And that persists throughout the movie. So that's consistent. Every time she's about to die or is really in danger of dying, she remembers something from her previous life. And some of it's pretty weird, but there you go. It's not as dark as what she actually remembers in the manga when she remembers her previous life, so that's fine.
It's a little bit more fluffy.
It's actually a little bit softened, funny enough. And also made a little bit more stupid in some areas, in my opinion, but that's my opinion. So the thing is the whole first half of the movie, She finds out she was a fighter. She finds that she identifies with being a fighter and that's what she truly wants to be. And that Ito is like, yes, your core is made to go with this berserker body. This is who you're meant to be. And she's like, finally, I can be myself. She gets this body. And even when she goes to see Hugo, she's like, it feels more like me. It feels more natural. This is who I am, is this body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel at one in this thing, with myself in this thing, right?
Mm-hmm. It
And
speaks
then,
to me.
when she offers him the heart, it never makes the connection on screen at all. You don't have enough agility to catch that thing.
I don't.
I was gonna say that she would be giving up her berserker body, except that they told you previously that that heart is the only thing that can power that body. It was specially made to be paired with it.
Pretty much.
So you have this experience of her essentially going, my entire identity that I have established and finally makes me feel like me, I'm not going to acknowledge it, but I'd be giving all of that up completely to try and support you leaving me and going to Teferi's. Maybe I could just go with you. Now, in the manga, when he says he wants to go to Teferi, she immediately is just on board going, cool, I'll go with you. And they add this weird angst thing in the movie of going, well, I knew I wanted Teferi's forever until I met you, and then I'm not so sure. And maybe I don't want to know what I want now. Like him feeling conflicted, maybe now the scrapyard is worth staying in, or Iron City in this case, because she's there and because he likes her. And in the manga, that was never a question. He was never worried about leaving Alita. He was never connected to her. Like she connected to him in some ways a lot harder than he connected to her, but she admired him for his big dreams. So she wasn't trying to take his dream away or ask him to stay, which she didn't do in the movie, but he never had any conflict about it in the movie.
Get that.
He never worried and went, well, now I don't know what I should do because I like you. He was just, always I have my eyes on the sky. Always I am looking up to Teferi's.
That is the thing I want to do.
Yep.
And then there's very directly contradictory to the line that Vector throws out in the movie. I'd rather rule in hell than be a servant in heaven, because Hugo would be perfectly fine being on the street in heaven. And
the thing is that is actually a piece from the manga that was changed a bit. So Vector does say that he'd rather rule in hell than be a servant in heaven, essentially. He's like, I wouldn't want to be, and Hugo says, I'd rather be a beggar on the streets in Teferi's than a king down here. Like, he really is. I don't care about anything else. I just want to get to the city in the sky.
Right.
Period. That's who his character is. And Alita loves that about him. That's part of what she likes. When she meets him when he's working on their windmill and she sees him, she's like, you're always looking at the sky. And he's like, yeah, Teferi's is up there and that's where I'm going to go. And that's a lot of what she likes about him. Anyway, so back to the berserker body.
There's so much crap in this movie.
Ito goes back and forth between essentially expositing that he doesn't know anything about this body or its technology,
and then suddenly being like, I know everything.
And talking about it initially as though he knows plenty about it, and then immediately once it's installed on her, like, hey, it's your technology, I don't know anything about it. And then later,
I guess you'll have to take care of it now.
And he kind of goes, well, you would know because it's whatever it is. So I will get to another piece of that in a minute. And then, like, she goes to the motorball circuit, and suddenly he's removed the feet from this berserker body and is fitting skates onto it. He admits to knowing nothing about this body or how to do anything with it, and yet this. And he's just casually snapping skates onto it, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense at all. But also there's this experience of, the actor for Ito seemed very disengaged.
He seemed, honestly, I almost wanted to be like, is he drunk?
He seemed kind of like he didn't want to be there a lot of the times. Like, he worked hard to do what he was supposed to do, but his character, based on my reading of it, didn't make any sense, and it felt like the actor felt that too, that his character didn't make any sense. That he was contradictory when sometimes he was like, yeah, I know about this berserker body and I can exposit it to you, and other times going, well, I don't know anything about this technology.
That guy was trying very hard, but also super, like, did not care.
Additionally,
but also trying to care.
Right? Ito is a full-flesh human, which is very uncommon in the manga, but in the anime it was quite common. However, they went over the deep end, off the deep end with arms.
God, so everything in that movie, everybody. I just have a missing arm. And I'm like, do you guys have missing
my
feet?
Arms replaced. Like everybody just about that had technology, they were either mostly cyborg, which is weird because they're like, oh, she's full cyborg, but they had full replacement cyborgs all
everywhere.
Over the place.
Yeah, she wasn't unique.
And once you got to the motorball circuit, almost everyone was full replacement cyborgs.
Right?
Like there was bunches of them, but he's like, this is a full replacement cyborg. Okay.
Okay, she's a hard body.
Yeah,
What
that's
the
another weird one
feckin'
they
hell is
used.
that?
Someone going, your hard buddy girlfriend. Anyway,
You're a hard boner. I don't
so
even know.
yeah. At any rate, I lost my train of thought because I was so grumpy.
It's fine. There's
But
so much crap about this movie. Like, guys, I can't even explain to you the level of how exasperated I
oh,
was.
I was going to talk about him being a hunter warrior.
Yep. Okay.
So
his
Ito,
things he likes
as
doing.
a hunter warrior, and the other thing that he likes doing, his three hobbies.
He's a doctor.
He's a doctor. He's basically
A nerd.
a nerd, collector, repairer, scavenger. He's a scavenger.
Yep.
And he's also a hunter killer. So there is something inside him that drives him to kill people. Like, he has a murderous instinct, and he is really two bones about it. He kind of just takes it out in the legal sanctioned way of killing people for bounties.
But
okay?
in this one, he has a daughter,
That
and
was killed
her
by
name
someone.
was Alita. When the freaking cat's name in the original one was named Alita, or Galley, if you're gonna go by the original
Japanese
manga,
manga instead of the American English manga.
Yep.
Anyway, so in the movie, he names her Alita, and that turns out to be the name of his dead daughter. In the manga, it's actually kind of funny because she's asleep, and his assistant, and he's with his assistant who's just, rebuilt her, right? Who's just brought her back to life. They haven't even rebuilt her yet, right? Because he rebuilds her piece by piece in the manga, because he doesn't have all these pieces on hand.
Which also contributes to the fact of where she thinks that he's the one who's going around killing girls.
Because he's slowly bringing pieces of girls to her and rebuilding her with them.
Uh-huh.
At any rate, he makes a comment in the manga of going, she needs a name. I'll call her Alita. And then his assistant is like, wasn't that the name of your cat? He's like, Alita's a great name. Your cat who died? Like, his assistant is really like, this is what you're going to call this person, your cat's name? And in the movie, it was actually his daughter's name.
Yeah, but then his wife shows up, or I guess
ex-wife,
ex-wife,
ex-partner,
no,
ex-whatever.
because she just left. It's not that they got a divorce, she just left, I guess, so technically they might actually still be married.
Who knows if they were
don't
married or if they
know.
were just partners. Who knows on that front either, because they weren't really specific about it.
Yeah, I don't know if they're not.
At any rate, so he's a hunter-killer, right? And most hunter-killers are highly augmented cyborgs because they're hunting
But he's not.
highly augmented cyborgs. But he is not. He's
That's
different because he's hunting as a fleshy, and he's super skilled at it. He's not getting damaged all the time. He gets hurt sometimes, but he's really good at it, right? Like, he plans his ambushes, he plans his targets. He does a great freaking job, right? And in the movie, he looks kind of crap at it.
Yeah,
Like,
God, he
really
looks bad at it. I was like, this feels like an insult to Daisuke Ito. Like, what the shit is going on?
Yeah,
he seems like a dumbass.
He does look terrible at it, and he wields his hammer really poorly.
Really poorly.
Like,
I think
got this freaking cool rocket-powered hammer that is his hunter-killer weapon, and it looks super cool in the manga, and it works, right?
It works
and
really
he
well.
fights with it, and he does awesome. But it's one of those giant, oversized weapons that, like, only works in Final Fantasy. It's super huge. But they went with that size. They stayed that size.
Which we actually both laughed about. Like, I thought it was great, and it was neat, but it was also like, he looks uncomfortable with this.
As an actor, he didn't seem to be able to wield it well.
He looked awkward.
It seemed awkward and, like, too heavy for him as a performer to use. Like, the prop looked too heavy and unruly. And he also looked really bad at what he did. Like, before, when Alita interrupted his kill, trying to go, no, don't kill the poor woman that's actually a bad person, but I think is a poor woman and I think you're a murderer. When he goes into combat, he does fine. Later on, when he goes into combat, he does fine.
But also, though, here, let's talk about another thing. The way that she actually really also gets interested in Destinova, because that's his full goddamn name, is because Ito dies!
He kidnaps Ito. And then when she goes to rescue Ito, who she doesn't know who's kidnapped him, she finds Desti. And Desti's like, oh yeah, I have Ito. He's right here, in this box. And she goes, what? Because she's confused, because he's holding this little box, basically the size of a shoebox, a little metal box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, huh? And he goes, he's right here, in this box. And he opens the box, and she freaks out, because you basically have a melted, disassembled Ito shoved into the box, right? And she freaking kills everything. She flips out and she kills Destinova, and she kills his two assistants, and she destroys, like, the area, and she's just, like, crying and a mess. And then all of them get back up. all of them sort of in this massive like horror scene. They come slowly back together and get back up, and he's like, wow, I didn't realize you'd freak out that much. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That's the real first introduction to Dusty, other than Ito working with him. So when he grabs Ito, it's like,
Still not fast enough. Holy crap.
yeah, you need more speed for those. At any rate, he gets Ito to come work with him, but it's sort of a blackmail where he's like, oh, look, one of my experiments kind of went wrong. Well, you'd better go and stop it. Here's the deactivator. Oops, it killed you.
Yeah, but he does basically kill him.
Yeah,
And yeah,
he does.
He does.
And that's Zapan's arc, actually, because they're creating the monster of Zapan, which is different than the hunter-killer of Zapan.
Because
when
she
Ito
gets rid of her
dies.
berserker body, which wasn't a part of the in the slightest.
I mean,
It was a body
space
that-
technology.
Yeah,
It
but
was old space technology.
yeah, but again, it wasn't this big, huge, gigantic. It's It's specially designed for you. It's yours. It's your bitch. You blah blah blah.
No,
It's like, well, it
wasn't
ends
for
up
her.
fitting you really well, sure. But
There's
it's
also
like,
this scene in the movie where they're really like, look at this, the body's reshaping itself to Alita, to her subconscious
Oh,
image of
God.
herself.
except that
And it's really visually cool looking, where the body dissolves and sort of reshapes itself into a slimmer, smaller, sexier girl, instead of being this more generic athletic girl build, which is sort of what it was. And in the manga, bless you, bless you.
Excuse me.
Goodness, bless you. Well, we should.
Honkachu.
Too bad we can't edit that one out. We do these live, by the way. Welcome to the live.
Welcome to the lies and scandal.
So one of the themes that I liked from the manga that
Welcome
they
to lies.
could not cover in the movie is that every one of Alita's bodies that she ever has during the time we see her was given to her by a man. Was made for her, shaped for her, designed for her by a man. And Ito is the first man who designs a body for her, and first he gives her a body that's more like a girl, like a little girl, because he wants a daughter, basically. He wants her to be his daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, he gives her a body, he gives her the berserker body, and instead of her, inputting, it's her subconscious projection of herself, which apparently is a hot, sexy chick.
Which I
he
couldn't honestly tell
actually-
the difference because they were so... I'm sorry, I just didn't care. The one thing that I noticed was her tits.
They really made her boobs bigger.
They
in the
really
berserker
did.
body.
And
were
they made
much
them...
like-
I hate to say this, guys, but, like, you guys are here and you hear me say fuck all the time. They gave her very pronounced nipples, and, like, for me, and I swear to God, they pronounced areolas. It was weird as shit to look at and go, what is going on? She has what I like to call anime boobs. Because for some reason in anime, they still have this thing of being like, because we have to equate breasts with dicks, we have to make things swell in weird and bizarre ways that I go, as far as I understand, that's...
You moved your fish, you lost
I'm
it.
sorry, because I have my finger on the side.
Yep.
Expand upon, wrong side. We're moving this, sorry guys, we're going back. But basically, we're making a sort of arousal experience that makes no goddamn sense. And also, her thing with Hugo with that was creepy. I'm sorry, that was just fucking creepy.
So
All of my
there's this scene
senses.
in the movie where she gets the berserker body and she goes away with Hugo for a minute and she talks about how incredibly sensitive she is, how her touch receptors are up to like 9,000
Enhanced.
and she can feel everything
Everything.
so intensely and she's super sensitive. And basically there's this incredibly very sexual feeling invitation to just put your hands on me.
Which is fine, and you can have that. But the thing is, I'm like, we've gone from being this thing, and now we're suddenly go to young adult protag, stupidity of romance and whatever the hell else. And now we're actually going to go to the sexual part of this. Okay, what is going on? Sorry, I'm papping around because I'm trying to hold on to
You're
this.
losing this. You're
I am
like dropping
super
the
bad.
tablet everywhere.
It's fine. I'm not good at this.
Anyway, and so it went from this, and they went back and forth between I'm using this incredibly graphic language to go, I am super sensitive, my touch receptors are ridiculously aware, and, I just feel everything, to this very soft scene where I'm going to sort of gently touch you and kiss you. I'm going to touch the side of your face and kiss you, kind of thing. And so it was a weird little dissonance there of going, it sounds like you're asking him to basically get it on with you really hard right now because your mind would be blown by simple contact because you're so sensitive, to, can you feel it when I touch your arm? Yeah. And where am I now that I'm on the side of your face?
And almost
You're on
after
my
fashion,
face.
I again wanted to applaud him for not going straight for it, even though basically I'm like, she's totally inviting you, and that'd be fine and consensual. But I'm also like, this is super fucking weird.
The dissonance
to just
was strange.
suddenly get in. Okay, guys, this is where we're going. Guess what?
Guess what? This is.
We're
it.
gonna go into human cyborg porn. This is where we're going. Hello, everybody.
Well, and the weird thing was like that his friend who was angry at Alita, and this is in the movie,
Mhm.
all the time didn't like her from the beginning because he's a thief of parts, and she's made of incredibly expensive parts, and going, you're now dating this cyborg when we're literally tearing apart cyborgs as our night job,
Right.
really? Anyway, but that he always calls Alita a hard body every single freaking time.
You're a
He's
hard
like,
body
your little
girlfriend.
hard body girlfriend. And later they kind of make it seem like hard body is synonymous with she's a cyborg body, but like they give her this incredibly fit, firm body, this build like of this very tight, small athlete, right?
Right.
And so it sounds like he's making a sexual reference to her being a hard body, and then that basically they back out later in the movie going, no, I'm calling her a hard body because she's made of metal.
Right?
Like, it really does feel like they kind of went, we're going more adult theme. No, it's totally PG. We're just talking about the fact that she's a cyborg.
Well, we're gonna get sort of racy because it's PG-13.
Right?
Right? I was just
the
like...
gore was super weird in that way, because a
It
lot of
kept-
people talked about how this movie was very violent and gory, and it was kind of violent, but my standards might be weird. Like, I've seen things like Terminator, and I've seen Alien, and those are all R-rated and stuff, but growing up, I watched a lot of things like RoboCop seemed more violent than this.
I mean,
in some
RoboCop
ways.
was more violent than
Like,
that.
It really was. Like this, and the thing is they didn't have any guns, so that like removed a lot of the violence, I guess.
Because it's actually a legal thing, but yeah, okay.
Because it was melee violence.
Right.
I don't know.
How am I
But
still
anyway-
not fast enough? This is as fast as I can go.
Okay, no. You need agility. Agility is your super little jump at the end.
Oh.
So agility is that little boost you do right when you grab them. That's what you need. So you only need enough speed to go about their speed, and then you need the agility to catch them.
Okay, well that makes more sense.
Yeah, you're not knowing what your stats mean.
No, I don't.
My friend doesn't
I'm
know
guessing.
about their fish stats. Their fish stats are very important.
My fishy stats.
My fishy stats. Anyway, so
Fishnets.
there's this weird experience in a lot of the movie of going back and forth between,
I couldn't
we've got adult themes here. We're going to show, Dyson's ex, in bed, dressed sexy, going, we've implied that she's fucking Vector. Pardon the language, but totally.
But that's
I don't know. I don't use it a lot. Anyway, screwing, banging, boning.
okay. The reason why I'm staring at them is because they're bullshitting and lying. We have sworn our asses off plenty of times. It's just right now you apparently seem to have this thing going, but I am more sophisticated. La la la.
I don't know.
And I'm like, I can be sophisticated and filled with much language and full of an excellent lexicon, but I don't give a fuck right now because fuck this.
Right.
I'm like, really? I don't want to fucking be walking out of a movie and be bored and tired. Like, I was falling asleep. Like,
so it really was anticlimactic at the climax. Like, it was more interesting in the first half than it was in the second half.
which I suppose, honestly, though, still isn't saying much.
And
I was
the
still
pacing was
frustrated.
super weird, and they also decided to do some very strange things where they shoehorned in a bunch of characters where they weren't before, and also I don't know why Alita followed the bad guy into the sewer at all. So here's one piece that I really, really didn't like, and let me just, if you're still with me at this point, this is a big thing for me. So, she's in Kansas, the big bad comes in, whatever his name is, and he challenges her to a fight, blasts a hole through the floor, cuts it through the floor, and she goes, come and get me, and jumps through.
Jumps into the sewers.
There's
Why did he do this? Well, number one, as I told Lies before, he's a Makaku ripoff. He is the character who is supposed to stand in for Makaku because they got rid of Makaku.
And the only reason they shoved him into the sewers is because that's where her fight with Makaku originally
Took
happened,
place.
and it was visually interesting. However, you have
It
this
wasn't
issue.
even all that interesting. Oh, you know what I was
No.
disappointed by, though? They really got down there, and I was like, oh, this might be kind of interesting. I was like, this is the most blank. It looks the same as every goddamn other thing. You're not really discussing anything about the history of why they're down here. They're just,
they're like, there's worlds below worlds below worlds. But the thing is when she first jumped into the sewers in the manga, she falls for like 30 solid seconds. And she screws herself up a little bit on the way down because there's so much down to go. And the thing is there are collapsing columns. There are cities down there. There's a lot going on visually down there in this huge freaking cavern. In the movie, she hops down there and it's basically like the worlds beneath worlds. And it's kind
almost
of like,
instantly.
and it's kind of like this experience of being in like a normal sewer, like think Ninja Turtles sewer.
Yeah, even though, I mean, they had the implication that there are
Like you
other
could see
levels to
it
the damn thing.
behind her that there was more going on at the
Yep, but
beginning.
they didn't go into any at
And
all.
then they basically
We don't care
had
about
this-
any of it at all. There's no history, there's no culture, there's no the fact that basically there are people down there that have actually been massively mutated and are basically considered to be even less than the people in the scrapyard, which is fucked up, which is what Makaku was.
A mutant.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you guys, what the shit are you doing?
Anyway, so they say this and they show behind her this really complex crumbling area. And then they have this fight in basically, again, this sort of Ninja Turtles style, like limited sewer room. Like
Right.
there's not much to see, there's not much there. There's just kind of a pile of rubble that's under a ceiling. Basically, they could have been having a fight in the scrapyard itself, except for there was a ceiling above it and it was rubble instead of junk. Like it was pretty small, pretty simple, all the visually stunning stuff, and running after him in this huge freaking environment that was in the manga wasn't there. Also, the reason she followed him in the manga wasn't, I'm looking to pick a fight and go fight you. It
It's
was,
because
he stole a baby.
He stole
the
Barkeep's baby. The one
So-
that you fucking see in there that tells the pen off to not fucking destroy the furniture, and then they fucking ignore him because of course they fucking do.
So
like you're
in the movie they don't do much with the barkeep at all, but Bar Kansas persists through all 10's books, right? It's Kansas, then it's New Kansas, then it's Kansas Reborn, because it gets destroyed a couple of times. Like it really does. But the thing is, it continues to be there, and the barkeep
it's a focal point.
continues
It's your
to
hub
run
world.
It is kind of a hub world, a kind of thing. It is a place you keep coming back to that marks sort of Alita's development in herself in some ways. And so he's got this kid that he's adopted who's a tiny little baby who Alita loves. She walks over there and this baby is, in this little hanging papasan chair, and they're adorable and kicking up their feet right in the middle of this bounty hunter bar, right?
Right.
And everybody's like, oh, the baby, no.
Because
Like,
babies, they're still like
knows
babies.
the barkeep's baby, right? That's his daughter.
Mhm.
Okay? So Makaku picks up the baby and is about to eat her because he eats brains and eats people, right? And Alita's like, don't you freaking dare. He's like, oh, you care about this baby? Loo. Well, if you care about her, come and freaking get her, and goes into the sewer.
Right.
And so she goes down, not to, I've got some personal vendetta and I'm going to be a badass and kick his ass. She goes down to save the damn baby. And there's no baby in the movie, so following him doesn't make sense other than a weird, reckless move, which is sort of like when she made weird, reckless moves before, it was always out of this like arrogance, or it made some kind of sense in reference to what her personal goal was. She didn't have a goal in reference to this guy that I could access at all, because he hadn't really done anything to her at this point, except for kind of vaguely annoy her and kind of vaguely hurt Ito.
Right.
Like,
Vaguely.
I've inconvenienced you by, pinning you up against a wall to make you watch her die. Oh, she didn't die. Well, now I'm really angry.
Right. I'm like, I don't
Like,
know.
it was really the first encounter with this bad dude that they replaced Makaku with, and I can't remember his name because he was so not there. And then I was irritated, honestly, with everybody else, because they're like, now again, we're going to smash Motorball in the arena together. The arena basically doesn't exist. We've taken the arena fighters and shoved them into Motorball
that
positions.
Makaku was in, that we decided
And then
to replace
also
this
taken
stupid
some
character
of
with.
the Hunter Warriors and shoved them into Motorball players. Like, we're smashing everything together. Like, picture old-time technology in the 50s, and you've got, a microwave and a toaster and an oven and, all of these different things, and then you shove them together in your future world, and it's this one make-all item. That's kind of what they did with the story, where your wristwatch and your phone and your computer all became your cell phone, right?
Right.
That in here, your Hunter Warriors and your Motorballers and your Coliseum Fighters are all squished together to be the same thing.
Right.
Also, the Hunter Warriors were super irritating because they were basically bounty killers for hire, where Vector could just be like, I just want you to do something different and kill someone because I'll pay you for it. They literally did not function that way. They were not for hire for anyone. They worked for the factory as, again, this precious job that you had to have.
The factory also, though, too, was totally not something he had any control over. The factory was Teferi's.
All
That
Vector
was
did in
Zion.
the manga, he just shipped supplies to it. He was just someone in charge of a big shipping dock. He wasn't in charge of the any Teferi's rules at all, or any Teferian things at all. He just shipped them stuff. He was basically a sort of a weird ringleader kind of smuggler boss kind of thing that also ran a factory shipping service.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so you've got this big bad
and
guy.
he still had to somewhat stay legit, because like I said, tiny demon-headed
were
babies
rules.
waltzing around, and also plenty of things that will fuck you up if you break the rules.
And so anything that he was buying that was, illegal, even if he knew it was bought illegal, like it was illegal from the source, he always had plausible deniability every single time. One of the things that freaking pissed me off was when they were in the movie stealing body parts from one of these hunter warriors smashed into arena where players smashed into motor ballers all together into one thing with grind cutters, which is a finger weapon. It's kind of cool. The grind cutters were still kind of cool.
They were still
cool. You could tell that the CGI artists and the directors were really obsessed with the grind cutters.
They were
and they
super
just wanted
awesome.
to animate them so much. And they did. They
Either
animated them so much.
Either that, or they didn't actually want to, and that was literally just the fact that they were like, oh my god, we have to do this 9 billion times because the people who like this thing went, oh my god, they're cool as fuck!
Yeah, the director really wanted the grind cutters from the visuals.
They really did.
They were really like, oh my god, we need.
And I'm all because again, because part of my problem was literally going.
Now get it.
I'm trying. I had to get through the briar first, you goofball.
Okay. Anyway,
But no. So the big thing is, like, I laughed because I noticed how he drops his grind cutters down and then he immediately pulls them back up again in this super melodramatic. I'm like, he actually. Do you not remember that scene
where
Makaku?
Show them off.
Makaku actually used them in that moment. He didn't just drop them and then and just go. Oh, and then it will suck them back up again.
It was a little bit different than that. So
I swear he used them.
First Vector.
Okay.
He did use them, but it was in a different order. So they changed the pacing on everything. They introduced Hugo earlier. They introduced characters that don't actually exist. They introduced Motorball way earlier. Motorball doesn't exist in Alita's world or in Dyson's world. Daisuke? I don't know. Ito's world. In Ito's world.
Let's just call him Dr. Ito.
Doesn't exist in Ito's world until after Hugo is gone from the story, until after the arc with Vector, Vector's first arc is finished, okay? And she kills Vector in this movie, and he doesn't actually die, which is funny, because Vector doesn't die in the manga. He actually lives to a ripe old age to reform his ways and do some cool stuff, right? Like, he actually becomes legit and does some cool things and actually contributes back to society, and it's pretty cool. He actually even, has eventually, like, a love interest. We don't follow his story very much at all, but he does some good things and establishes himself as a reputable businessman after he gets really damaged. Like, he's in a wheelchair in the later parts of his life because he doesn't do cyborg enhancements. But the thing is he turns out to be a pretty good guy once he's got some clarity of purpose, right? And, anyway, but she kills him in the movie, so he just dies.
I'm like, the thing is I bet you they're hoping at this point they can get 2 movies out of this, and then because the last thing they got to kill is Destinova.
Right.
I don't know what the hell they're planning on doing plot-wise, because how the hell she's going to fix anything with one remaining floating city in the sky? Like, I don't even understand, like, what the whole, like, you're gonna get onto ferries, and then what? You're gonna save everything with technology that nobody has anymore and nobody understands and nobody... I'm like... what is the point of this?
What is the point
Explain
of going
to me, America.
Up to Zolam. Yeah. What is the point of going to Zolam? The point is, well, you could be super cool up there. I guess. Except for in her case, the only reason she wants to go now is to kill Destinova.
Which is...
because she's angry at him because of...
Hugo,
because of whatever. Because of everything. Okay, so let me wrap up Vector real quick, and then I will go to Sheeran, and then which ruins Alita, and then I will come back to the grind cutters. And then we might have to wrap this up because it's getting long.
No, it's fine. I'm fine with long because you know what? I just had to waste fucking nearly 3 hours
on this movie.
I was done with that movie after about an hour and a half. Like, I was done. I kept looking I kept trying to resist looking at my phone. I kept picking up my phone in the freaking thing going, I am going to do this thing. I am going to do this thing. Nope, I can't do this thing yet. Going, okay, well, I can't, because you're still in the theater and there are still people here and this is still going to be rude. Okay, well, I won't do that. Okay, I can't do that. God, put the phone down. Yeah, but what time is it? God,
but
what time is it?
What do I do to entertain myself while this movie is going on? Okay.
Yeah, because it was boring.
So, Vector always had plausible deniability of being involved with anything shady or underground, okay?
Right.
So, in the movie, he did not. In the movie, he was straight out freaking standing there while Hugo and his team were wrecking some cyborg for parts, right?
Right, a guy who honestly got in who was a sports...
He lets that person see him and then kills that person, which isn't in line with Vector at all. At least not the Vector I remember. Maybe I'm wrong. But because I haven't reread this again, but he was always way the frick behind the scenes. And when they're like, Hugo's in trouble, he's like, I'm not connected to Hugo. That doesn't matter. Because literally, he had, again, plausible deniability and was very on the lowdown with his connection to anything shady. All right? Anyway, so when ultimately there's this reveal of the only way you can get to Zalem is either by being a top motorball player, which doesn't exist in the books,
At
or
all.
by going as human body parts. So the thing is in
because
the books,
apparently Dusty Nova is super into brains and eyeballs and hands.
right? So he basically kills Sharon and turns her into body parts, except for he doesn't kill her. He just disassembles her.
Yeah.
In the way that Hugo's head can be sustained and Melita's brain can be sustained, and people don't die instantly because they have life support on their brains when you disconnect their head from their bodies. That
disconnect. I love that. Decapitation is disconnection now.
well, if you're a cyborg, it is.
I know, but I'm like, when you're not originally, that's pretty horrific.
Right? Anyway, so there's this experience of Sharon is there in a case as body parts. You can see the eyeballs moving. The brain is alive. He has said that Dusty Nova wants interesting brains, wants basically the smartest, best brains. So you know Sharon is a living brain right there. And not 2 scenes earlier, she had helped Alita save her boyfriend Hugo by saving his brain. And then Alita runs out of the room to go save Hugo and leaves Sharon there to die and never goes back for her.
Yep, so and they never approach it. They never deal with it. They never talk about it.
I mean, and there's not even I've got Dr. Ito on the phone. I've got his ex-wife here in a box in the room with me, and I'm not going to tell him who is the person who can save her.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't say anything. He's also the person who cares about her, you know? And so it's like, she knows this is a box full of Sharon. She knows that's her brain and eyes and hands and preserved body right there, and she's alive in this bubbling tank, right? And she just completely F's off to go save Hugo and doesn't even tell anybody who she's on the phone with at the time that this is here. That this person that he loves and is, used to be a partner with is here.
Yep, and at least it's caring.
And they've established it already 3 separate times in the movie that a brain is the human, that is their life.
Pretty much.
And so then she sees this and does nothing. So that established, and they never talk about it. So for me, I'm like, super gray morality right there. Like, holy crap. Like, Alita just ditches this person and doesn't mention anything. Then I'm like, that I think is a plot hole, because I don't think they meant to have that kind of complete, I don't care about Ito or his feelings. I don't care about Sharon or her feelings. I don't care about this person that's going to die if I walk away.
She literally just fucking sacrificed herself, and you didn't give her a second thought.
Yep. And
she was there for horror factor, and then you went, now time to go say Hugo. And I'm not saying that Hugo's not important, but you're literally on the fucking phone. Your huge plot hole of going, yeah, you're right there. You could just talk to someone.
You're on that thing the phone
where
with
people
Ito.
ask all the time going, yeah, but they had a cell phone. Why the hell is this a huge issue? One of those problems with modern technology now is you can't have plots like that anymore because people would be smarter than that.
People can connect to each other. And again, going, I'm on the phone. Ito, what is it? Sharon's here. She's been taken apart. And going,
she's in a box.
She's in a box. And he's going, wait, what? Where? No, but Hugo's in trouble. Oh, well, what about Sharon? Where is she?
Right?
And then she drops the phone, and Ito comes to the factory and saves Sharon, who was a disposable character that they then treated like parts, which was interesting in objectification senses. Okay, so there's that. That should be wrapped up. Vector did not stay behind the scenes. Sharon was a disposable character for shock value and like temporary emotional experience. And now, grind cutters. So the grind cutters are this cool, long chain finger weapon with knives on the side of it, right? Like it's a chain of knives that is has prehensile control, right? Those things slow you down in this round, just like the bushes.
I know.
Okay. And so you get this guy showing up going, I've got grind cutters, and drops them down. So Magaku actually did a thoughtful reveal in the manga where what he does is he uses one grind cutter to attack people and basically fuck shit up in the bar, right? And then Alita goes to attack him, and he totally throws off her attack and ruins it because he throws out another grind cutter, and she goes, hang on the frick, they're in all the fingers? And that's when he drops them down, going, there's not just one, there's 5. Except for he has them in both hands. But the thing is he makes her think that he only has one by only using one.
Only ever using one, yeah.
Uh-huh. And then
And the thing is that
uses all
Makaku was also
5.
interesting because he took over the champion of the Colosseum.
So Makaku was this character that was basically, as a body, he was this weird cybernetic worm, which essentially
He was called the maggot body, is what it was called.
Yeah, a maggot body was the name of it, but it functioned basically as a synthetic spinal column.
Mm-hmm.
He could insinuate himself into another body and attach to the central nervous system and basically function as a head attached and run this body through the maggot body.
Yep.
Okay, so what he did was when he couldn't beat Alita in the strongest body that he'd acquired at the time, and she destroyed that body, he went and he took over the champion of the Colosseum, the one who was the absolute top of the Colosseum League and had the grind cutters, had the best body. He's like, I'll just take that over. So he kills that person to take over their body, and then he comes after her with the strongest known body at the time to go kill her with this technology. And they don't have any of that. But also when she fights Makaku in the first, she fights him twice in the manga. In the first battle, she shoves her arm into his freaking eye and breaks her arm off and destroys her body because she's got this wimpy ass decorative body that he had, built for her. In the movie,
who is he?
Ito had built for her, right?
So that part is accurate, piece by piece. Sort of.
Except for in the movie,
it's for his daughter because his daughter seems to be paralyzed or something.
He had a paralyzed daughter, and he and his wife were kicked out of Teferis because they had a paralyzed daughter, which doesn't make any sense. You can't have a paralyzed child in Teferis. You don't even have children in Teferis. Children are manufactured in Teferis, and then they get assigned to parents. You have your parenting unit. So this whole we had a
here's
child.
Here's your nuclear family. I've made it for you.
Yeah, and you get assigned a baby, and that's a part of your life in the same way that we get assigned certain steps in our life, and it's no big deal. It's fine. At any rate, so in the movie he just gives her a homemade body, and then in the first fight in the manga, that body gets torn to pieces by trying to use Panzerkampf because it cannot literally handle it. Its joints can't handle it. Its tensile strength can't handle it. It destroys itself. She tears it to pieces by trying to use this powerful martial art on it, and then she defeats Makaku by essentially destroying his body and then crippling one of his eyes. Yep. Now he spends a minute in his maggot body going, I'm gonna burn your two faces into my mind and hate you forever until I kill you, and then scoots off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's actually Ito who destroys his freaking body, totally. So Alita's out of her depth in this fight, but she ends up basically beating him anyways, like when she goes, and destroys his eye, and he's like, oh my god, the pain, I need brains, I'm going to try and eat you. And then Ito rips him in half with his, rocket-powered hammer.
Yep.
And that's when he retreats. So the two of them do defeat him together, and that's when she gets her berserker body, and he decides to give it to her going, a warrior needs a warrior's body. This is going to happen again, and you're going to destroy yourself again because this is who you are. There's not some weird fight about her going, this is who I am, you need to give me this body that I went and got for myself. Which is what happens in the movie. She goes
because she still very much has a father-daughter relationship, despite the fact that she tells him no.
Right?
And he goes, well, fine, I will respect you, except I'm going to complete fucking ignore you constantly, consistently, the entire fucking time and still treat you like you're my child.
And in the movie, there was a lot more argument between them, and it's drug out a lot longer.
Well, so I said, for some fucking reason. Why? I was like, that's really rude, actually.
And she had no problem, honestly, being in a child's position next to him. She just wanted to be herself in the manga.
Right.
He was her role model. She admired the shit out of him. She wanted to be just like him.
She wanted to be a hunter warrior like him.
Like him. Not for some, this is who I am, I'm a fighter. It's, I want to do what you're doing.
Right. And he was like, I'm not comfortable with this for a while, but then he was like, yeah, okay, fine. No, I gotcha.
Well, I got you. Once you've destroyed yourself doing this thing that is inherently naturally you, yeah, fine. Yep, this is you. You betcha.
Uh-huh, yep. Mm-hmm.
I will support this because I don't want you to die.
All right.
And, yeah. Anyway, so it's awkward.
So many fucking things
there
about
were so
this
many
goddamn
things. But the
movie.
thing is the movie has issues with its own canon. In the way that she leaves Shirin to die, and it's never mentioned and it's never handled at all, and the way that Ito does know about her berserker body, doesn't know about her berserker body, can't understand it, can't understand it. That has a thing going, oh, I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what I'm talking about. It also has an issue with the bad guy having a plot hole too, going, well, he won't even let me repair his eye, he wants to keep it. Then later his eye is repaired. So she does stab her arm through this guy's head that is not Makaku which makes less sense because he doesn't have a giant oversized head. It should have gone right through his brain and killed him, and they didn't explain that. And everyone else died with even minor head damage or head removal all the time.
Or, I will give them this. I kept going, it could be just snapped unconscious due to the amount of trauma, because that can be quite traumatic. However, I'm still like, but there was one dude who broke all of that, who was just a head.
Just for comedy.
Just
for comedy.
Just to be funny, just to get run over.
They had weird comedy beats in this movie too. Like they wanted to be funny here and there, and it just felt really weirdly flat. Like they had the Houndsmaster, who was this hunter warrior who worked with cybernetic dogs. Beautiful cybernetic dogs. They're good boys, right?
Right,
and they'll
fantastic.
tear you to pieces. They are good boys.
Yep, they loved the man. The man loved them.
Their person. He loves them. They're very good death machines, right?
They were fabulous.
And the thing is they use him for a one-line joke about that guy didn't like dogs, and that's why I helped you kill
because
him.
they decided to kill this tiny little dog that Alita ended up knowing. And I felt nothing. Like, I had been spoiled about it, but I'm also like, even when being spoiled about shit like that, I've usually had an emotional reaction. I was still irritated with it, actually, because it was so... it just felt obvious and stupid. Like, oh boy, they're gonna kill the dog.
Things is like, I didn't feel any ominous sort of weight in this movie of going...
Death actually has no meaning. This is literally just pointless.
When I felt, hey, something's going to happen that's going to be bad, I didn't go, something's going to happen that's going to be bad. I just went, that's going to suck or be stupid, or, oh, that's happening next. Sometimes it was just,
I guess that's an experience
that's happening
now.
Next. Like... A lot of the movie was very predictable
damn it.
in reference to what they were going to do. Even the stuff that was outside of canon, it was just very predictable as to what they were going to do. Going,
Right.
oh, now they're going to do this. Oh, and now they're going to do that. And then they did. In pretty much every case.
Oh,
and
look,
so it was
surprise.
weird. So they pulled in the Houndsmaster for one joke about that guy didn't like dogs. And then they pulled in this, then they have one person who doesn't either die or go unconscious.
Well, because we
when his
can't
head's
threaten...
cut off.
So that scene, though, in Kansas, anyway, because we can't threaten a baby, but we can murder a dog, granted, off-screen, but still, we can murder a dog.
Right. And the thing
And I was like...
if you're worried about being upset by this, they don't show the dog die on screen.
No, it's off-screen.
What they show is the blade going that direction, and then there's a squeak. And then they show blood on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even show the corpse. They don't show it getting apart. You just, getting cut. You just get this impression that something horrible happened, and everyone kind of goes, ugh.
Ooh.
Yeah, kind
And
of.
the thing that bothered me is I was like, Alita doesn't show anything. And I'm like, but I kind of wanted her to show something because she really seemed to care the fuck about that dog. I'm like, but because no one fucking reacts to this dog, I'm also like, and now I don't care about this dog. Like, the characters don't care. Why the fuck should I care? Well, here's your motivation. You're just gonna fucking, I guess, kill the dog. All right, whatever. Like, it just... That whole thing that people talk about where it's actually really important to have your characters actually have a fucking emotional reaction, because then you know what to react to.
You know what to feel.
Yeah.
You know what the emotional tone is because your characters are
Because your
carrying the
character that
tone.
is your in to this world tells you or informs you more of how you should be reacting, what is and isn't normal.
So here's one of the great things that I really, really liked about the manga, and I've talked about this in the other Grinding Cast, is that Alita gives you emotional connection in scenes that would otherwise potentially be emotionally disconnected. Because in a lot of scenes, she is emotionally disconnected. She is callous. She is cocky. She is about her own, basically, agenda. But in scenes where she connects, you connect as the reader. At least that was the experience I had. I can't guarantee that you would. But that is generally what the author is going for. And I feel like largely they succeed at it. They have this experience where they do something profound and you feel it because she feels it, because she is affected by it. And the deaths of so many people in here were so pointless. And then you have Shiren, who didn't actually die. She just was taken apart and then put in storage to be shipped as a live tissue sample and live brain, basically, for him to experiment on. And
Which
nobody reacts to it at all. Alita doesn't get this righteous, you've killed Shiren, or you've got her in a box. It's really just, I'm still angry at you about Hugo?
Right?
And it's,
Well, she wasn't really connected to this woman, except that it seemed like she said... I actually said it in the theater going, she seems oddly willing to trust this woman who just tried to fuck her over a little while ago.
and she really was. She was just suddenly like, Shiren has a change of heart and helps Alita do something very important, which is save Hugo's life.
Which also, though, again, like I said, Alita seemed to react really like, okay, I'll just believe you kind of thing, which was very confusing to me. Going,
She really just instantly behaved as though she completely trusted Shiren, and then nothing. And
Pretty
it's
much.
just like, And then you have Shirin in this position of going, Alita helped me remember that I'm a mother and a doctor, and I had forgotten that.
Right.
Oh, here's where you can now decorate your pond. So this is where you get your own private pond that you can interact with, that you can spend your star currency on.
Oh, okay.
I don't know anything about this other than it was in the tutorial, so I haven't used it, but there it is.
Okay.
You can go ahead and place that for now, I guess, and then move it later. Oh, look, and then all your fish
Babbies.
can hang out here, I guess. Except for, you shouldn't really... Oh.
These are all the things you can buy.
Some of those are really expensive. What's the Dusk Moonstone do? Because that's, like, wildly expensive. Does it do something? Is it just...
I think it's just sparkly.
And anyway,
It bloops.
so... I found it also that, again, your big bad went, no, you can't repair my eye. You gotta leave the arm in my eye, right? And then later, when he shows up again to finally get killed, his eye is sort of repaired and the arm is gone, so that's weird. Like, again, it has issues with its own
The bunny,
canon.
Usagi.
So the movie has issues with its own
Kokoro
canon and what it
Shukaku.
establishes for itself, which is frustrating to me.
Good and boo. That's super cute.
Anyway, that's sort of my thoughts on the movie. Generally, the pacing was poor. It was confusing. Even when I talked to the guy who had seen it in theater, that worked at the theater, he's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to go yell at this movie. He's like, why? I was like, what was your impression of it? He's like, well, I felt like the pacing was really rushed and they couldn't really focus on any one thing very well. I was like, that's because it's 4 books squished together. And he kind of had this aha light bulb moment going, oh, that makes way more sense. Except for it's 4 books squished together with components from books 8 and 9 in it as well. I'm surprised they didn't shove chaos in there somewhere since they were off on people having kids.
Right?
Anyway, so do a really common color and one that we've done most
I don't
of.
know what a common color is.
Okay, so this is your uncommon colors. Your pinks and your teals are your really uncommon colors. So your common ones is going to be your ordinary yellows and oranges. But
I love
also,
that it's not telling you, though, what...
This is an uncommon color. I mean, it tells you once they're hatched, whether this is rare coloring or not. So you don't actually have really many duplicates at all available. Of course, we haven't made very many fish. Yeah, pinks are uncommon. So go ahead and do that one.
Sure.
And if you get the same fish, one that you've already checked off, that first one, then you can just release it and start again.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to wrap this up here and go, basically, I felt the pacing on the movie was poor. I felt that the character analyzation was poor. I felt that a couple of the actors didn't really want to be there at all. I felt that your lead, Alita, really worked very hard to do a really good job as an actress. I really genuinely did. I felt she
tried
worked hard for it, and she honestly did really good with what she was given.
Oh my god. I gotta tell you, though, I had some of the worst reactions to some of her CG face ever. I laughed more than, 4 times because it looked so bad.
Honestly, they should have gone with basically a hard CG model instead of one that was interactive, because the stretching weird features was very strange.
It was super fucking weird.
It was like her
I
face...
laughed so much sometimes. I was like, oh my god! And I had to shut myself up because I was like, this is not what people came to the movie for, but oh my god.
So I didn't have a problem with the big eyes, but I did have a problem with the rendering of expressions and how it stretched her face.
I had a problem still
weird.
with the big eyes. I was kind of like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
She just looked goofy. I don't know. I still couldn't.
Also, again, going, nobody
this is how
else
had
big eyes.
Nope.
And it was honestly just, it was just the manga style. In the manga, all the girls had big eyes.
And so did some of the guys.
Some of the guys, but everybody had bigger eyes. Yep, period. That was just what went on in the manga. That was the art style.
That was what you did.
She didn't have specifically big cyborg eyes. She just had big eyes because she's a pretty girl.
And she was a cute girl. It's
they admit their protagonist is pretty. People talk about the fact that their protagonist is pretty. Face of an angel. She's an angel because she looks like an angel. In fact, there's actually a particular murderer. We'll just call him a serial killer. There's a particular serial killer that has an issue with her that again has an interesting arc. Back in the scrapyard, he'd been a serial killer, and he'd been pretty brutal at killing, the classic killing beautiful women kind of thing, right? And cutting them into pieces. And when he saw Alita, he was like, that is my ultimate goal. I want to cut her into pieces. Oh my god, I fantasize about it. And ultimately, he has a really sensitive piece of, final, finishing arc. So one of the characters of what is this human condition? What is it that makes us human? Is this piece that almost every character death that happens.
This one?
Now, not just death, but character death that happens is really in reference to, you can go ahead and breed with them and then see if the egg offers any new possibilities, and then release it if it doesn't. Is that they all get some sort of sensitive connectivity to what it means to be human, to the depth and value of the human experience, of the height of human emotion, of the height of human expression, all of it. There is this piece of recognition of this is a whole complex person, whether they're a good guy, whether they're a bad guy, whether they were a side character or something. If they had an arc and they die, there's something profound about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in so many cases, if not in every case. And that really didn't happen in the movie.
No.
At all. When Vector died, which was a made-up death because it didn't happen in the books, it wasn't profound. When the bad guy died, it wasn't profound. When people died, just when Hugo died, it didn't even feel very profound. It felt kind of forced. So you have all of those already. So you release it. Good deal. Like, I had a really hard time connecting to the emotional experience of Hugo dying because it was so abrupt in reference to everything else that was going on. And again, they tried to shoehorn Destinova into this scene as a deliberate, now I'm going to make things challenging for you.
Because
and
I feel
it was
like
weird.
It.
So I didn't like the movie because I felt like a lot of it felt forced. I felt the pacing was really weird. I felt like a lot of it was super abrupt of her going, Motorball, I want to do that. That name, I love that. This thing, I love that. But only in the cases of like the first 5 things she ever meets, she's completely attached to forever.
The motorball thing was weird for me because I
done.
kept going, why does Ito care? Ito would never care. Well, he does. It's dangerous. It's how do you?
He goes from like he's super resistant to Hunter Warrior, and he's also like, don't care about Motorball, don't be attached to Motorball. And then instantly after that, he's like, I'm helping you get ready for Motorball. It's fine.
It's okay. Well, if you're gonna do this anyway, I might as well just fucking do it because you're gonna get killed anyway.
And so there's no resistance to it. It's just weird.
I'm supportive,
also
Dad.
Going, these bounty hunters are just killers for hire to the highest bidder as well. They don't care about following the law and getting arrested for murder.
You mean the very thing that
they're doing to other people they don't think is going to happen to them? They're not above the law. They're a piece of the law.
And again, they actually had way more of the goddamn law involved in the manga.
Uh-huh. Anyway, so let's wrap this up because I don't have a lot more yelling to do other than it was frustrating and disappointing, and it was about as bad as I thought it would be, but in some cases a lot worse. And they did some strong disservices to characters I care about very much, including Destinova and Joshugen. And Ito was the only character.
I am Joshugen. I'm going to be a 20-year-old looking white boy disaster. I'm sorry, that actually bugged me. Also a jerk. Yeah, a rude jerk, too. Like, he was the king of the motorball circuit for the little bit that I've ever seen of him. I was kind of they were just like, okay, I said, Lies, I have a type.
Yeah, I was like, this is Joshugen. This is what you're missing out on the motorball circuit. And my friend went, oh, God, I have a type. I have typed my friend a lot of times going, you will love this character, look at them. And
I went, you're lying, I won't like them. It happened with Mistborn super hard, and too. I was so mad.
I hate it.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, I
love it. Unfortunately, I love it.
Anyway, so with Joshugen, they made him kind of a weird sort of jerk for the 2 seconds he was on screen, but also he was failed. Like, they ruined his plot by simply doing you get to go to Zalem if you're the top player. Because the thing is he was the top player in the arena, period.
That is
top
what
of
he
the league,
was.
Undefeated, no one could touch him. And
the way he worked in that game also, though, too, is he actually had to play with less parts because he was so fucking good.
He played with a handicap because otherwise it was unfair to everyone. And in the final battle between him and Alita, which is really profound, has a lot of good build up to it, and is really important to both of their personal developments and to her arc with Ito, he puts on both his arms and fights her at full strength.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
And he dies.
And he dies in a meaningful, valuable way to himself and to Alita.
So why you keep chirping at me?
At any rate, thank you for joining us. My name is Les.
I am Scandal, and I will try to be chilling out with fish.
And this very, very relaxing game may have been helpful. It's called Zen Koi 2. Feel free to check it out. On our channel, we have lots of Let's Plays as well as some grinding casts like this one where we simply bitch or whine or talk about or dissect things.
Or we will read books.
It is very chill. Sometimes we will simply read books and sort of live blog them and critique them as we're going through them. We're still developing our channel as it's fairly early in our process, but if you'd like to like, comment, subscribe, share us with your friends, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, save us from the algorithm. It'd be fabulous.
Yep, feedback would be valuable as well. Since we've had very little interaction so far, all comments are appreciated. And take care of yourselves, all right?
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.